We are going to ride on board with Dave Wittmer in his 1994 Mazda Miata, and Pete McParland is in the passenger seat. Both of these guys instruct with the Club Sports Car Club, and this was taken at an open test day on August 28th. We're going to do 3 laps in half speed and 3/4 speed to take a look at the safety features, where the line is, and how to get up to speed. And then we're going to take 1 full speed lap through with Dave driving. So let's get started with the safety features. Just hopping up to turn 1, you've got the wall which separates the pit lane from the main track. You've got slightly blind exit. You've got a corner worker station. You've got a tire wall that runs along the outside. Probably want to stay off of this curb, and you notice the track out takes you all the way to the tire wall with no extra space and into the pit out lane here, which is a little dangerous. There's not a ton of runoff on either side. You've got a blind entrance into 2, so you've got 2A, which is a big bump here, and then 2B, which is totally blind. You want to get the car to the right to line up turn 3. You do have a corner worker station on the left, which is pretty readily visible, and you finally get a little extra breathing room in terms of runoff as you exit turn 3 here using the curbs. Turn 5 is just this first turn 4 bends into turn 5. You can see you want to stay off the bit to line up turn 5 at a better angle. Turn 5 has plenty of runoff on either side. You wouldn't want to turn perpendicular into the track. You could crash into the wall, but kind of strange here. You can see the corner worker station is all the way up here, so from the apex of 3 to the exit of 5, there's just those 2 stations, so you want to keep an eye for that. It's not in a very traditional spot. And actually, the next corner worker station is all the way over the top of the hill, so you want to keep your head up as you crest this hill. You can see it's going to be on the apex of turn 7. You can see the station. Apex of turn 6 here. As you enter turn 6, there's a little extra pavement, but it's a lot slicker than the regular pavement, and then eventually it leads you into the tire barrier. It's very steep downhill. You lose a lot of grip here, and while there's a good amount of asphalt, again on the outside it's not nearly as grippy, and can quickly launch you into the tire wall, which, as you can see on the exit of turn 7 here, gets a whole lot closer. We're in slow motion here, but the speeds are picking up into the 80s, maybe the 90s, depending on what kind of car you have. And this runoff is not going to be sufficient at those sort of speeds. You want to keep in mind very big hump here at 9B that can unsettle the car as you fly over it, and there's not a lot of space on the exit here. And again, we haven't seen a corner worker station since 6A. Turning into turn 6. The next station is going to be all the way up on this cliff here, which you're going to have to keep an eye out. It's very non-traditional spot, and supposedly there are caution lights that are being installed. But again, you're going to have to keep your eyes up as you enter here. There's going to be not a lot of flagging stations to keep you informed of what's going on. Into turn 10 and 11, this is probably the most dangerous part on the track. You can see the cliff is at the very end of the brake zone, so you really can't miscalculate that. And you can see Dave still has some steering angle as he's braking here into turn 11. You know, at turn 11 it goes steep downhill. It's hard to tell just exactly how steep it is as you exit turn 11 into turn 12. 13. Again, you've got the pavement that doesn't have a lot of grip on the outside, although you do have some extra breathing room through here. Certainly not a lot of room for big mistakes, and right around this corner you begin the pit in, so you want to keep an eye on that, and certainly spot the final corner worker station, perhaps up here at the turn in for 15. Again, another spot far off the track. And then as you exit 15, you can see all the space in the extra pavement, which again, not very grippy, but even still it goes away and leads into the wall. And there was a kink here right along the barrier with the plastic, another plastic barrier jutting out. So keep an eye on that. As you can tell, it's, there's some spots are better than others, but overall, pretty hairy track in some spots. Definitely keep an eye on the non-traditional corner worker stations. They may have moved since this video was recorded, but let's take another lap through and speed things up looking at the line. So as Dave comes into turn 1 here, he's got the car positioned all the way to the left. You definitely want to get all the way to the apex curb, but don't hit it, and then use a lot of that extra track out space. You've got brake markers here. You want to turn in smoothly just in between that last brake marker and the turn-in curb. You can see that track out takes you all the way out. For turn 2A, you can see Dave misses the 2A apex. It brings him all the way to the left to line up 2B. And you probably want to be a little bit tighter to the right to get a better run out of turn 3 here. So it's going to be a compromise where you line up turn 3. That's going to be something that you have to experiment with. Turn 4, you can stay off the apex to get a better line into turn 5. Definitely hug the apex. He gets all the way to the apex curb right there, and then open up the wheel as you accelerate. In high horsepower cars, you definitely want to be mindful of opening up that wheel and using that whole space to track out. Using the brake markers here into turn 6, getting the braking done very early, all the way from the left of the track, all the way tight into the apex on the right-hand side of the track, and then you're going to want to let the car drift out part of the way, but not all the way, to get the car all the way to the right for 7, all the way tight to the left for the apex of 7, and then let the car track out, but not too far. It does want to slide a little further than that. Through 8, connect the dots here with the curbing at apex and exit. I wouldn't hit it that hard as you're getting up to speed. And as you can see through 9A and B, it's a very sweeping arc. So one more time through 9A and 9B, you want to stay about mid-track through 9A and keep the wheel input all the way through 9B. There's a big hump here, and it's going to launch you all the way to the exit, so keep it very smooth there. Not a lot of excess wheel input that Dave has, which is good. Through turn 10 here, connecting the dots on the way in, hugging that apex curb, and getting that braking done. So this is really the way Dave carries the most amount of speed in the Miata. You may need to take a slightly different approach in a horsepower car where you actually lift off before 10, but here Dave is carrying a lot of speed into the apex at 10, keeping it tight, and then unwinding the wheel as he brakes for turn 11, which is much tighter. That has to be very smooth, both on the brake and on the wheel. You can see he's very tight to the apex there and hugging it way past very late apex into 11. So just one more time through 11, you can see a very late apex. There's a lot of good camber on the inside, and then he does let it track most of the way out of 12, which I think is about right. A smooth transition from turning to the right out of turn 11 to turning to the left through 12 and 13. It's going to be one arc on the wheel, about mid-track here, just inside of the extra pavement. And it's going to track out, again, mid-track for 14. You don't want to push too far over because you won't be able to line up 15, but definitely want to carry as much momentum. And through 15, a lot of brakes very early. Ideally want to be a bit tighter to the apex there, and then let the car track out to the curb, but again, be careful as the run out kind of goes away on you there. So last time through, let's just talk about how to get up to speed. Your first few laps out in turn 1, lift off the gas, get on the brakes very early, I'd say before you even get to these brake markers up here, just so you can feel the car rolling gently in. Even on your highest speed passes, you can't have much drama or you'll be bleeding speed. So, practice being very smooth and really ideally no corrections through here. For 2A and B, just take it super slow to get the arc right, where you miss this curb here, but you're tracked all the way out to the left for turn B here, 2B, and you can straight line from 2B, turn in to the 2B apex curb in order to line up turn 3, ideally a bit further to the right here, especially, in the Miata you can get away with a tighter line into 3, but I think in several cars you're going to want to have the car positioned about mid-track. So taking speed off until you can get that line right. Otherwise, it's going to be a real challenge to work out the kinks through there. And really through turn 3, focusing on that exit. This exit out of turn 3 is uphill, very steep, and you can see carries you all the way up this hill, which it continues to be steep uphill and wide open throttle all the way into turn 5. For turn 5, you've got a turn-in curb here. You definitely want to be on the brakes well before that as you're getting up to speed, and practice getting all the way into this apex. You want to build a habit of hitting that apex every time. Don't even miss it by 6 inches. It's probably one of the most important spots to fling as much momentum up onto the back straight as you can. As you're getting up to speed in 6 and 7, take it easy. It's a very easy spot to spin, which could be a huge wreck as the car, it feels like it's off camber here. It's just so steep downhill. So anyway, let the car, what you want to experiment with is how far the car drifts from the apex of 6 out to mid-track versus hugging the right side of the track. So you can hug the apex a little bit more and get even straighter of an approach into turn 7 and possibly a better exit. You want to see what works well in your car here. In the lower horsepower cars, it's definitely going to be important to maintain momentum between the 2 corners. I think exit speed alone will be good, but won't be quite enough for lap records, as you figure out that approach. But again, get up to speed very slowly and practice transitioning the weight from right to left very smoothly between, as you're going into the corner in turn 6 with the weight all the way on the left tires and switching all the way back to the right tires on the way out. Through here, just get the line right through 8, 9A, and 9B. Don't be afraid of lifting. Don't be afraid of really using some brake to make sure you're not overcooking it through here, and just get that arc right. Through turn 10 and 11, don't push this one until you've got the rest of the track figured out. And even still, hug the apex here. I think probably the safer line to get started. If you want to adjust it and let the car drift towards the left to get a wider run into turn 12, that might be a good approach in some cars, but just be careful as the momentum could carry you to the apex curb and eventually off the track. Definitely work on getting timing of the throttle with the late apex there and not running on a track. As you get up to speed, very slow downhill. This is so steep, you're really charging down a mountain road here. Practice being smooth on the wheel, and as you can see, Dave, he's got the wheel with the same arc. And of course, as you're coming into the final corner here, be careful of the folks pitting in, but the big thing you want to focus on is smooth on and off the brakes and very early. You had this turn-in cone here. It may not be there again, but you want to find a mark where you're actually lifting off the brake pedal. So don't just focus on where you're getting on it, but that's going to be key to hitting this apex here. And I would say don't push the exit until you're very comfortable with the level of grip, but certainly getting more comfortable throughout the day using all the track. So that's it for really dissecting it. Let's watch through one lap at full speed. So this is the same lap. You can see Dave flying into turn 1. He's going to get on and off the brakes quickly here and quick on the throttle for turn 1. You can see he's full throttle just before the exit, carrying all the way out. He's totally up to speed here. This was not his first lap of the day. This was one of his last. Here he is flying into turn 2A and B, carrying as much speed in. Probably wishing he had that exit back. Sorry, Dave. Heading up into turn 4 and turn 5. You can see he does a really nice job getting tight on the apex, carrying a ton of speed up the hill. This is a very good exit. You can see how smooth it is, how clean the RPMs are. Into turn 6, he carries a lot of momentum and a lot of min speed. He saves every mile an hour that he can. He gets most of the way to line up for 7, carries a good amount of speed through there, uses all the track out. Takes a bit of curb here, not so bad in a Miata that doesn't have a ton of power, but A nice smooth arc on the hands all the way through 9A and B. And he carries a lot of momentum into turn 10. And he's very smooth on the brakes here. Very smooth with the wheel. You can hear him get clean on the gas there for a strong exit out of 12. In the Miata, he just needs a little bit of a lift here for 13 and 14. Nobody in pit in, so he can take it flat out for 15. Good amount of brakes, turn in, and pretty good lap overall. So hopefully this was helpful. Again, keep in mind corner worker stations are in non-traditional spots. They may have changed between this video and when you actually go on track. As you know, any new track develops, safety features are going to change, line of sight is going to change, the track surface is going to settle, and we're just going to learn a whole lot more about it. So be safe as you get up to speed, and hopefully you have a great time at Club Motorsports with Com Sports Car Club this weekend.